What is up, everyone? Today's video is going to be 11 tight ends that you can stash on your bench, especially in tight end premium leagues, or they could be of great value in startups where you need to kind of stash some of these tight ends. But before we get into the video, if you guys could just do me a favor there, hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't already. It's a great way to support the channel. But let's get into it here. First guy is going to be the man on the cover is going to be C.OTTON. He was a rookie this year coming in, started kind of as like the number two, started getting a little bit more playing time as the season went on, especially once Gray got injured. He looked like, a very good target for Tom Brady. Tom Brady really seemed to like him. And, guys, it was his rookie season. Not many tight ends produce early on. Usually it takes a few years for them to kind of really get going. We've only seen it recently, really, with Kyle Pitts and Pat Fryermuth. So he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he can catch the football. I mean, 6'5", 247. So he's a great kind of hold on to, or you can draft him really late. But we're not sure what's going to happen next year with the quarterback situation. Is Tom Brady coming back? Is he not? But regardless of what happened, whether he comes back or not, C.OTTON looks like he could be part of the future for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, in this year, in his rookie season, finished tight end 26, 65 targets. He had 42 receptions for 391 yards and 2 touchdowns. So not, great by any means, of course. But for a rookie guy that didn't really get the playing time in the beginning of the season and was just starting to come along on an offense that just did not play well all season, there's some upside there. You can see the potential. Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys is going to be the tight end number 2 that we're going to talk about, right behind Dalton Schultz. But Dalton Schultz is a free agent. We don't know if he's going to get signed. We don't know if he's not. Are they going to slash the tag on him? We don't know what's going to happen. But Dalton Schultz is not the very much an athletic kind of guy. I think that they can kind of play anybody at that tight end position and still get production, as we saw when Dalton Schultz was hurt. Ferguson wasn't horrible. That game that he first played, 4 catches, 6 targets for 40 yards. A 3 for 57 in another game. He was a rookie, 6'5", 244. So if Dalton Schultz is not on that Cowboys team next year, Jake Ferguson steps up right into that number 1 role, and he's going to be a good tight end. Noah Gray, tight end number 3 that we're going to talk about, 23 years old, second season in the league, is the backup to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce obviously is healthy, but he is getting older. We don't know when that time is going to come, or if he gets hurt, then Noah Gray is the next man that steps up there. So he's going to be on the team, I think, for the next 2 seasons here. So has a chance to make a name for himself if Kelce starts declining or if he gets hurt. But Noah Gray can definitely catch the football. He's a great hands guy. He's been out there, all the time. He gets maybe 1 catch a game, 2 catches a game, but he's always at least a little bit involved, which is good to see. Once Travis Kelce is not there, he can step up into that role. So a good sneaky guy to kind of hold on to. Great guy to go out and get really, really late, or just hold on to him if you have him on your team already, because the potential is there, especially in that offense with Patrick Mahomes. That's definitely a chance that you want to take, especially on a tight end where that position itself is just so shallow. It's so hard to find good tight ends, or at least pay and get good tight ends, especially in those tight end premium leagues where they're just hard to come by. Noah Gray, you can get for really, really cheap. Tight end number 4, Tommy Tremble from the Carolina Panthers. Second season in, still young, 22 years old. Hasn't really shown what we thought we were going to see out of him yet. But again, like I said, it takes some of these tight ends, takes all of these tight ends really time to actually really start producing, especially at a high level. So 6'4", 250, played decently well during the season, had a couple decent games. What do you have? 4 touchdowns on the season, 3 touchdowns on the season this year. Didn't really improve from last year. He kind of stayed the same, 20 catches last year, 19 catches this year. Did split some time with Ian Thomas, though. So, what's going to happen next year? I think Ian Thomas is gone, if I'm not mistaken. So, Tommy Tremble can actually make a role for himself, especially if they're able to get a QB and they're able to pass the football a lot better than they have been. And they can mix Tommy Tremble in there. New coaching staff. There's some things that maybe can happen with Tommy Tremble. Just again, a guy that you can get for really, really cheap. and hold on to and kind of see what happens there. The fifth guy, which is probably a surprise because he's not young like some of the other guys we talked about, Mike Gesicki. He's going to be a free agent next year. I don't think the Dolphins re-sign him. I don't think they need to with the offense they have and some of those weapons. So he can go to a team that can actually use him. He can go to a contender. Big guy, 6'6", 250, can catch the ball really well, runs good routes. So he can be of service to a team that really needs a tight end. So a guy that you can get for pretty cheap right now because he's not producing and he's not really involved much at all season long. So go and grab him for cheap and hold on to him and hope that his situation changes and it benefits him. Brevin Jordan, the next tight end we're going to talk about, 22 years old, second year in, 6'3", 245. We expected Brevin Jordan to really come off big, and we had high hopes for him, and he really hasn't. I mean, last season 20 catches, this season 14. They had Atkins in there this year, who was getting the majority of the work. Atkins is not going to be there next year, possibly, depending if they re-sign him or not. So if Brevin Jordan steps in and he takes that role, again, guys, it takes a few years for some of these guys to really get going. So Brevin Jordan, especially if they get a QB that can throw the football, whether it's Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, whoever they wound up picking. Don't count out Will Levis or Anthony Richardson as well. I mean, we never know who they can possibly get at QB. But if they get somebody that can throw the football and Brevin Jordan is the guy that comes out with that number one role, it's possible that he can, produce pretty decently for you, especially if they're going to be down in games. So hold on to Brevin Jordan. There is still hope. Next guy up from the New York Giants, Daniel Bellinger, 22 years old, was a rookie coming in, and he played very decently well early on in the season there. And you can see this is tight end premium, so you can see some of the fantasy points is a little bit higher than it normally would be if you don't play in tight end premium, but played really well. Then got injured with the whole eye socket injury with the finger in his eye and damaged his eye, so he was out a few games. Then came back and still played well. So he's definitely somebody that is interesting, and I'm very interested in, especially if Daniel Jones can take that next step up. If they re-sign Daniel Jones, which they probably will, and he takes that next step up as a passer, Daniel Bellinger is a guy you can get for really cheap for on the low. People really aren't on him yet. So I like him, especially in the fact that they don't really have much pass catchers. I mean, Wandale Robinson was on IR. Other than that, they've got, Slayton, they've got Hodges, they've got a couple guys there, but nobody great. So, if they can carve out a role in that tight end position into the offense with Bellinger healthy next year and Daniel Jones taking that next step, he could be a really, really good tight end. Next tight end up, OKONKWO from the Tennessee Titans, 23 years old, 6'3", 238. Very athletic, big guy. Looks really good out there catching the football and really starting to come along towards the end of the season, towards the second half of the season, as we normally see with rookies. And he did split time there, obviously, with Austin Hooper, but he was very involved in the pass game here. He's at 3, 4, 6, 4, so he had a good stretch of games where he had a bunch of catches. And if they can get a QB, and we don't know what's going to happen with Tannehill, but if they can get, a quarterback that can throw the football, because Malik Willis, I don't think is the answer there. And I'm not sure. I think they figured that out, but who knows? But if they can get a QB that can throw the ball a little bit with Chig and Burks there, they can have a decent offense there. They just need to really get a QB and start throwing the football. But Chig is a guy that in the next few years, he can definitely become a viable tight end at the position. Next tight end up from the Arizona Cardinals, Trey McBride, 23-year-old rookie, 6'3", 249. Really didn't start playing until after Ertz was hurt. And he came in and he played decent. Nothing crazy, but he is, the guy that is for the future. I mean, that's the way they drafted him. It will take a few years, like I've been saying. So once Zach Ertz is done, you've got Trey McBride to step in. He can learn from Zach Ertz, become a better player. It's the perfect kind of mold for him. So Trey McBride, I think in the next few years can be really, really good, especially in an offense with Kyler Murray. They like to throw the ball. There's talks of possibly Sean Payton going there. Sean Payton goes there. I want some of these players on my fantasy team. Trey McBride is a guy that I'm going to want on my fantasy team, especially once Ertz gets phased out and that age kind of hits him and he stops producing, Trey McBride is going to be stepping right up. If McBride doesn't even beat him out next year or the year after, we don't know, of course, what's going to happen. Hold on to Trey McBride. Just have patience. Speaking of patience, that brings us to our next guy, Isaiah Likely on the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, they have Mark Andrews, but 22-year-old rookie, 6'4", 241. The guy can play. We know that, and we've seen that already. It's just a matter of getting him on the football field. They have no wide receivers. So I don't know. Do they change it up and next year just run a lot of those two tight end sets and get him a lot more involved in the offense? Maybe, maybe not. But if Andrews goes down, you know Isaiah Likely is the guy. And once that contract is up, he can always go somewhere else or he can be traded. Like I said, he's shown that he can play. We've all seen that. So there's a chance that another team out there might trade for him. And if his situation changes, he's a guy that you're going to want to have. So, hold on to him, stash him on the bench there. And we're just going to hope for the best and for the situation to change. The last guy up is Jelani Woods, 24-year-old rookie, 6'7", 253, just a monster. Split time with Kyle Granson this year, but there's a chance next year that he could take over that number one spot. Hopefully, the Colts wind up getting the QB, and within the next few years, Jelani Woods will be that guy. He will be that tight end for that team. He can catch the football, and he's just a very, very big guy, especially down in the red zone. They can use the advantage with his height there. So Jelani Woods, hold on to him. And guys, don't forget that all of these tight ends, we can't expect them to be something right away. Like I said, all the tight ends that come in the league, it takes about 3 years or so for them to actually start producing. So be patient with some of these guys. Stash some of these guys that are in good situations so that when it does happen and they do get their turn and it is their time to shine, you have a guy on your team that you can play every single week, or you have a guy on your team that you can trade to somebody and get some assets in return. It doesn't cost you much to hold on to some of these guys on your bench when they're not producing right now. It doesn't cost you much. So if you have the space, hold on to them, especially in those tight end premium leagues where it's hard to come across tight ends, especially if you don't draft well or if your tight ends are aged and you start needing tight ends and you wind up with, nobody that you can get. You got to go after some of these guys and take some of these chances. So, well, that wraps it up for the tight ends, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether you like some of these guys, whether you don't, whether you have some of these guys on your team already. Any questions you have, of course, drop them right there in the comments. Again, guys, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. It tremendously helps out the channel. As always, thanks for tuning in.